In the cold stretch of space, far beyond the edge of mapped galaxies, a single space station drifted in steady orbit. It was called Helix 9, and it circled a dead world that most believed never existed, the ancient planet Arcaris. Arcaris had lived in myths for centuries. The stories said it was the origin of thought, the place where the first intelligent minds in the galaxy were born. Some believed it was the cradle of all species. Others said it was cursed. But in modern times, those stories were labeled as legends, nice for storytelling, useless for science. Yet here it was. Real. Silent. And not nearly as dead as it seemed. Alex Wren stood in the main observation chamber of Helix 9, staring down at the cracked, gray surface of the planet. The glass stretched wide, giving a full view of Arcaris below. No clouds, no storms, no light from the ground. Just rocky land broken by time and covered in dust. Alex was 32, with sharp eyes and a focused mind. They were a xenolinguist, a specialist in alien languages. Quiet by nature, Alex rarely spoke unless they had something important to say. Their thoughts were always busy, always searching for connections and patterns. They hadn't come to Helix 9 to chase fairy tales. They had come to study the markings found in the ruins below. Symbols, carvings, ancient signs left by something no one could yet explain. To Alex, this wasn't a magical planet. It was a puzzle, and puzzles had answers. Behind them, the hiss of the door opening broke the silence. Commander Tavan Kor stepped inside, his boots clicking on the floor. He was tall, broad, and wore his uniform like armor. His expression was always serious, his words short and sharp. He was the head of security on Helix 9, and he made sure everyone knew it. "You're up early, Wren," Tavan said, looking past Alex at the planet. "Didn't sleep," Alex replied, still staring at the surface. "I was reviewing the energy data from last night. There was a minor distortion around the southern ruins." Tavan folded his arms. "Distortions happen. Don't waste time on ghosts." It was different this time. There was a pulse pattern. Short bursts, then silence. "Leave it to the engineers," Tavan said. "Focus on your language work. Don't get distracted." Alex didn't answer. They knew better than to argue. Tavan didn't trust curiosity. He liked control. As the commander left, the door closed behind him with a low thud. Alex turned back to the window, thoughts turning faster now. Something strange was happening on Arcaris, and no one wanted to talk about it. Later that day, Alex met with the research team in the main lab. Holograms of the ruins floated in the center of the room. Towering structures, broken domes, long walls carved with markings that stretched for miles. "I've isolated a set of repeating symbols," Alex said, zooming in on a stone slab. "They appear to follow grammatical structure. This isn't art. It's language." Dr. Lien, the lead archaeologist, leaned closer. "Any translation?" "Not yet. But some symbols match fragments found in 3 other systems, Varnes, Serac, and Hethra, all previously unconnected sites." "You're saying these myths may share a real origin?" she asked. Alex nodded. "I think we've been looking at scattered pieces of one forgotten civilization, maybe the first." The room grew quiet. Even in a place built for science, those words felt heavy. That night, Alex returned to their quarters but couldn't rest. Their mind was filled with the symbols. The same cluster kept appearing in different locations, a circle with 3 rays, a triangle within it, and a curved line underneath. It looked like an eye, or maybe a sun. The station's AI confirmed no signals had been sent to the ruins. No drones were active. The planet was quiet. So why did it feel like something was watching? Unable to sleep, Alex went back to the lab. The room was dark, lit only by the blue glow of the monitors. They loaded the latest scans and focused on a newly found pillar deep in the southern zone. They stared at the symbols for a long time. Something clicked. They highlighted 4 lines, rearranged the markings, and noticed a rhythm, not just visual, but almost musical. They fed the pattern into the translator system and adjusted the language matrix. Suddenly, the lab lights flickered. A low, vibrating hum filled the room. On screen, the image of the ruins changed. A new glow appeared on the stone, faint lines lighting up like veins beneath the surface. Then came a voice, flat, mechanical, distant. Name, Lenari. Memory, partial. Function, standing by. Alex froze. The voice hadn't come from the station AI. It was something else. They looked around the room. Everything was still, but the screen now showed a pulse moving through the ruins. Alex stepped back from the console. Their heart was pounding. This wasn't random data. Something on the planet had answered. A warning light flashed. Tavan entered moments later, flanked by 2 guards. "What did you do?" he barked. "I didn't activate anything," Alex said, their voice steady. "I was running a translation protocol. That's it." Tavan walked to the console, stared at the data, and then turned to Alex with suspicion in his eyes. "No more private research," he said coldly. "From now on, everything goes through me." He shut down the terminal and left without another word. Alex stood alone in the quiet lab. The hum had stopped, but the feeling remained. Something had been awakened. Later, back at the observation window, Alex stared down at Arcaris again. The planet looked the same. Cold, cracked, empty. But it wasn't empty. Not anymore. Far below, hidden beneath stone and dust, the ruins of Arcaris pulsed once more, a soft, blue heartbeat in the dark. The myths had waited long enough. The next morning, Helix 9 felt different. The halls were just as quiet, the lights just as dim, but a sense of unease drifted through the air. Something had changed during the night. The silence was no longer peaceful, it was holding its breath. Alex Wren moved quickly through the station, their minds still replaying what had happened in the lab. The symbols lighting up. The voice that came from nowhere. The name, Lenari. That voice had not belonged to the station AI. It had come from the ruins themselves. Something deep below the planet's surface had responded to their translation. But Tavan had shut everything down before they could learn more. Alex arrived at the lab to find the main console locked. A new security barrier had been installed. Tavan had kept his word, no more solo access. Any work with the ruins now had to go through him. Frustrated but determined, Alex found a side terminal and began reviewing yesterday's data. They searched the logs, hoping the brief activation had left behind some kind of trace. It had. In the system's deep memory logs, Alex found a fragment, 1 second of audio, recorded automatically before the system was shut down. They played it back. The voice was flat but clear. Lenari, standing by. The name echoed in their mind. It sounded familiar, though they couldn't say why. Alex had studied thousands of alien words across dozens of languages, but Lenari stood out. It wasn't just a name. It felt like a title or a warning. Alex copied the file to their private data pad and left the lab before anyone noticed. If Tavan found out, he'd confiscate it. Whatever was happening here, he didn't want others involved. Later that afternoon, the science team gathered in the command chamber. Dr. Lian brought up the latest scans from the ruins. "There's been an unexplained shift in the southern region," she said. "Several pillars have changed position." Alex stepped forward. "That's impossible. The planet is geologically inactive." Dr. Lian nodded. "And yet, the structures moved. Not by much, but enough to register." Tavan entered, silent and watching from the back. His presence made the room colder. "What's the explanation?" he asked. "We're still working on it," Lian replied. "No guesses?" Tavan pressed. Alex hesitated. "There's a possibility the ruins are reacting to pattern recognition. The markings might function like a trigger. A language-based activation." Tavan stepped forward. "Or someone's tampering with the site." "No one's been down there since last week," Alex said. "Maybe not officially," he replied. His eyes lingered on Alex before he turned away. The meeting ended with more questions than answers. Back in their quarters, Alex locked the door and opened their private files. They loaded the translation matrix again. The system had saved their progress from the night before. The lines of curved alien symbols, half deciphered, hovered on the screen. They worked for hours, comparing fragments, testing sound values, and cross-referencing with known languages. Slowly, the symbols began to reveal a structure. Subject, action, location. It was language, clear, logical, and complex. One phrase repeated again and again. Lenari, witness of worlds. Another line seemed like a warning. Those who wake the I must answer. The I, was it the symbol they'd seen etched into stone? The circle and rays? And what did it mean to answer? As Alex leaned back, trying to process it all, their data screen flickered. Then it froze. For a moment, everything went black. Then the symbol appeared. A glowing circle with 3 rays. The same one from the ruins. A new voice spoke, softer this time, but still without emotion. Language confirmed. Initiating contact. Alex's breath caught in their throat. "Who are you?" they asked aloud. There was a pause. "I am Lenari, guardian of memory, witness of decline, speaker of the first tongue." Alex blinked. "Why are you speaking to me?" "You opened the path. You followed the signs. You heard the question." "What question?" "Are you ready to know where you came from?" Alex froze. Their heart beat fast, but their voice stayed calm. "You mean humanity?" "Not only. Many seeds, many stars. Few survive. Most forget. You were scattered for safety. Now you return. Alex didn't know what to say. Every myth they had dismissed, every legend they had ignored, were they real? Why now? They asked. The pattern matched. The message was read. You opened the language. Alex leaned closer to the screen. What happens next? Lenari's voice paused, then responded. Judgment. The screen shut off. The room went dark. Just for a moment. Then everything returned to normal, lights back on, air flowing, system stable. As if nothing had happened. But something had happened. Something massive. Alex sat in silence, staring at the blank screen. They were not just translating a forgotten language. They were part of something larger, a test, maybe even a trial. The myths weren't dead stories. They were warnings. And they had just been answered. The silence of Arcaris was not the silence of death. It was the silence before a question, one that demanded an answer. The next cycle on Helix 9 began quietly, but Alex Rin could feel the weight of something building. After their brief contact with the voice called Lenari, nothing on the station felt the same. The lights hummed lower, the air vents sounded slower, and even the crew moved like shadows. Alex hadn't told anyone about the full interaction. Not yet. Dr. Lien would want to study it. Tavan would want to shut it down. And neither option felt safe. But Alex couldn't ignore it. Not after hearing those words. Judgment is coming. They sat in the dim light of their quarters, going over the audio file again and again. The voice never changed. Calm. Clear. Cold. It spoke not like a machine, but like something very, very old. Something that had seen too much. Alex needed answers. And if no one would help, they would find them alone. That afternoon, they made a plan. They knew Tavan had locked down access to the Central Archive, the only place where the full historical scans of Arcaris were stored. But Alex also knew that not all security systems had been updated since the last maintenance cycle. There were gaps. Loopholes. Quiet spaces where someone curious enough could slip through. When the main shift ended, Alex left the lab with the others, then circled back. They moved quietly through the crew quarters, keeping their steps light. At the rear of the station, where the backup servers were housed, there was a maintenance tunnel barely used. It led directly to the archive chamber. Alex entered the dark tunnel, pulling a small light from their belt. The air was still, the metal walls tight. Every sound echoed. It felt like crawling through the bones of the station. After several minutes, they reached a service panel and opened it with a bypass key, one they had modified weeks earlier during a routine inspection. The archive chamber opened before them. No guards. No cameras. Just rows of data pillars, each glowing faintly. Alex moved quickly to the language logs. They searched for anything that mentioned Lenari, Judgment, or I. It didn't take long. There it was. Classified entry, Union Science Council Report, File 77X. Subject, Arcaris, Prehistoric Seeding Theory. Status, suppressed. Alex's eyes widened. The Union had already known. Decades ago. The file included a translation of partial ruins found in a different system, symbols nearly identical to those on Arcaris. The report described a guardian entity that once monitored the development of early species across the galaxy. This entity was not a god, not a machine, but something in between, built by a forgotten race to protect the future from repeating the past. That entity was named Lenari. The report also included warnings. Interaction with guardian systems may trigger legacy protocols. Extreme caution is advised. Exposure may lead to awakening of dormant programs. Judgment criteria remain unknown. Alex leaned back, stunned. The Union had known about Lenari and had buried it. Suddenly, a sound behind them. The archive door slid open. Commander Tavancourt stepped inside, his boots sharp against the floor. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he walked toward Alex, slow and steady. You shouldn't be here, he said, voice low. Alex stood still. You knew. About Lenari. About the warnings. Tavan didn't answer right away. He looked at the screen, then back at Alex. I've been watching you, he said. You're good at what you do. Too good. Alex's heart beat faster. Why hide this? Why bury the truth? Because truth doesn't make people safe, Tavan said. It makes them panic. The Union buried this for a reason. The moment people think their gods are real, or worse, that they're machines, everything falls apart. Alex stepped forward. This isn't just ancient history. Lenari is active. It's speaking. It remembers us. Tavan's jaw tightened. That's exactly the problem. You can't stop it, Alex said. You can't control it. I can try, Tavan said. And I will. He reached for a small comm device and tapped a code. The console powered down. The room dimmed. You're suspended from all ruin research, Tavan said flatly. Hand over your data pad. Now. Alex hesitated, then handed it over. Tavan turned and left without another word. But he had made a mistake. Alex had copied the translation logs to a hidden drive earlier that day. The real files, the ones that mattered, were still safe. Back in their quarters, Alex sat in silence, staring at a new message that had appeared on their terminal without any transmission. It simply read, "We were scattered. Now we remember. Prepare to answer." Alex knew what it meant. Lenari was waking. The planet had a memory, and that memory was unfolding fast. The lights on Helix 9 flickered again. It had started subtly, a few dim panels in the main corridor, a delay in door response, static in the intercom. But now, entire sections of the station were losing power, one by one, as if something was quietly testing the edges of the ship's systems. Alex Wren sat alone in the observation chamber, watching Arcaris rotate slowly beneath them. The planet looked unchanged, cold, cracked, still. But Alex knew better. Something below the surface was stirring, and it had already reached out. Lenari was no longer a whisper in the shadows. It was awake. They opened their private terminal and scanned the latest system activity logs. The patterns were unmistakable. Controlled energy pulses. Targeted systems. Every 3 hours, the ruins on Arcaris sent out a short burst of electromagnetic code. At first, it seemed like random noise. But Alex had matched the intervals to an ancient sequence they found in the hidden Union files. It was a countdown. Alex stood and moved to the lab. The main terminal was still locked, but the side station, the one no one monitored closely, was enough. They uploaded a copy of Lenari's voice log and overlaid it with the power disruptions. It aligned perfectly. Whatever was coming, it was scheduled. Intentional. Behind them, the door hissed open. Dr. Lien entered, carrying a datapad and looking pale. "You've seen the shutdowns," she said. Alex nodded. "It's not a malfunction. It's Lenari." Dr. Lien sat beside them. "I saw the translation. I know what you're not saying." "Then you know we don't have much time," Alex said. She hesitated. "Tavan has activated emergency lockdown protocol. He's planning something. The crew doesn't know the truth, only what he wants them to hear." Alex leaned in. "Then we tell them ourselves. We don't have the luxury of hiding anymore." Dr. Lien gave a small nod. "Come with me. There's something else you need to see." They made their way to the restricted deck, the level Tavan had sealed off since day one. With Dr. Lien's clearance, they bypassed the scanner and stepped into a chamber Alex had never seen. Inside was a tall, sleek device, shaped like a pod, humming with faint blue light. It pulsed gently, almost like a heartbeat. "What is it?" Alex whispered. "It's part of Lenari," Lien said. "A fragment. The Union recovered it decades ago and placed it here as a backup failsafe. Tavan never told the crew. He was trying to use it, control it. But he doesn't understand what it really is." As if hearing them, the pod began to glow brighter. A voice filled the chamber, calm, familiar. User recognized. Wren. Alex. Pattern matched. It was Lenari. Alex stepped forward. "You said we were scattered. That we were seeded across stars. Why?" "Preservation. The first civilizations fell. Memory remained. You are remnants." "What is this countdown?" Alex asked. "What is judgment?" "Test of awareness. Test of unity. Test of truth." Dr. Lien looked at the pod. "And if we fail?" The light inside the pod darkened. "Reset." Suddenly, alarms blared across the station. Red lights flashed. A synthetic voice echoed through the halls. "Warning. Unauthorized launch detected. External weapons systems activated." Alex's eyes widened. "Tavan." They rushed to the command deck. The bridge was in chaos. Crew members shouted, screens flashed warnings, and Tavan stood at the center, issuing commands with a firm voice. "Target all surface transmitters," he barked. "Disable the source. Now." "You're firing on the ruins?" Alex yelled as they entered. "You'll trigger Lenari's defense system." Tavan turned sharply. "We don't need defense systems from dead civilizations. We need control. We're ending this before it escalates." "You don't understand," Alex said. "This isn't just an AI. It's a test. One built by beings older than us. If we destroy it, it could erase us." Tavan's eyes narrowed. "You've been infected by myth." Alex stepped forward. "No. I've listened. I've studied. And I know this isn't about faith. It's about being worthy of the knowledge we've forgotten." Tavan turned to his crew. Anyone who disobeys will be charged with treason. The room fell silent. Then, one by one, the crew hesitated. Some stepped back. Others lowered their eyes. But not all obeyed. Dr. Leon walked up to the control panel and tapped the sequence. The weapon systems powered down. "What are you doing?" Tavan shouted. "We're choosing truth," she said. Tavan reached for his sidearm. But before he could draw it, the station lights shut off. All systems stopped. Gravity halted. Everything went dark. Then, in the center of the bridge, a glowing shape appeared, a sphere of light, humming softly. Lenari had arrived. "The judgment protocol has been activated," the voice said. "Humanity stands at a threshold. You may step forward or fall behind. You must answer." Alex stood in the glow. Then asked. There was a pause. "What is your purpose?" Alex felt the eyes of the crew on them. Tavan stayed frozen, his face tight with rage. "I don't know," Alex said finally. "But we want to learn. We want to remember. Not to control, but to understand." Silence followed. Then the glow expanded, passing through the walls, through the ship, through every mind on board. A final message filled the air. Acknowledged. Judgment delayed. Memory preserved. Truth released. Power returned. Systems rebooted. The sphere vanished. Tavan dropped his weapon. The crew was silent. Alex turned to the main screen, where the planet below now shimmered faintly with light from deep within its surface. Not destroyed. Not dead. Just waiting. The lights on Helix 9 glowed steadily again. Systems were restored. Gravity returned. The alarms had stopped. But the silence that followed was not relief. It was awe. No one spoke for a long time. Crew members stood frozen at their stations. Some stared at the main screen. Others looked to Alex Wren, still standing at the center of the bridge where Lenari had just appeared. Commander Tavan Kor was silent too. His weapon hung loosely at his side. He looked around, as if realizing for the first time that he had lost control, not just of the station, but of the story. Dr. Leon stepped beside Alex. Her voice was quiet but steady. "We need to alert the Union. They have to know." Alex nodded slowly. "Not just about Lenari. About everything. The myths. The ruins. The warnings." Tavan finally spoke. His voice was tight. "They'll bury it again. Just like before." Alex turned to him. "Not this time." Later that day, under full crew supervision, Helix 9 opened a secure channel to the Galactic Union High Command. The transmission included every log, every voice file, every scan. It included Alex's full translation matrix in the video feed of Lenari's activation. No part of the truth was left out. It was sent to every major science division and shared with allied worlds. Alex stood in the transmission chamber as the files uploaded. For years, they had searched for language, for meaning, for logic in ancient science. And now, they had found something more. Something far greater than they expected. Truth hidden not by time, but by fear. While the Union reviewed the data, the crew of Helix 9 worked to recover the fragment pod, the small, pulsing piece of Lenari stored in the restricted deck. It was moved to a secure lab, but this time, no one tried to control it. Instead, it was studied, respected, and listened to. The voice inside spoke again, this time with no riddles. "You are one branch of many, but you are still young. Remembering is only the beginning." Outside the station, the surface of Arcaris had begun to change. Drones picked up signs of movement in the ruins, soft lights pulsing deep underground, shifting formations in the stone. No weapons, no threat, just motion, like something stretching after a long sleep. Alex led a team back to the surface. They stood in the center of the southern ruins, surrounded by ancient towers and massive stone blocks marked with symbols. The air was still thin, unbreathable, but the silence was alive with meaning. Alex placed a hand on one of the marked stones. This was the place where the first message had been sent. The place where the ancient voice had waited for a listener. Now it had been heard. Behind them, Dr. Leon scanned the area. These aren't just ruins. This whole site is a living record. The structures respond to input. Every word we speak here adds to it. Alex smiled faintly. It's listening. Still judging. But now, maybe it's also teaching. That evening, back aboard the station, Tavan was officially removed from command. He didn't protest. He said nothing during the hearing. He simply turned in his clearance codes and walked out of the command deck without looking back. His desire for control had nearly cost them everything. But even he had seen it now, the power of truth was greater than any weapon. In the following days, ships from the Union arrived, not warships, but research vessels. Scientists, historians, and diplomats came aboard Helix 9, each eager to learn from what had been uncovered. And Alex? They were offered a seat on the Union Council, but they declined. Instead, they chose to stay. With Dr. Lien and a small team, Alex began leading what would soon become the largest peaceful archaeological study in galactic history. They spent their days translating, decoding, sharing. Not guarding secrets, but opening doors. Lenari continued to speak, offering glimpses into civilizations long gone, some that rose with wisdom, others that fell in fire. Each memory was a lesson. Each message was a choice. One day, as Alex walked alone through the upper observation deck, they looked down at Arcturus again. The planet no longer looked silent. Its surface glowed softly now, like it was breathing, like it was alive. A message appeared on the glass screen in front of them. Not from the station, not from the Union, from Lenari. Tomorrow is not written, but it is chosen. Alex smiled. The past had judged them, and now the future was theirs to write. The story of Arcturus spread across the galaxy like light through glass. First came disbelief, then silence, then questions. Billions of minds, scientists, leaders, scholars, ordinary citizens, began to look at the stars differently. What once lived only in ancient stories had been proven real. The myths had breathed, spoken, and revealed truths older than history itself. And at the center of it all was a human named Alex Wren. Helix 9 was no longer just a research station. It had become a living library, the front door to a forgotten origin. Diplomats arrived to witness it. Pilgrims came to stand on the soil of Arcturus. Even long-standing rivals paused their conflicts to understand what Lenari had revealed, that all known species had once been seeded across the galaxy, not by gods, not by conquerors, but by caretakers. Caretakers who had vanished after a great fall. Lenari was the last of their creations. A guardian. A memory keeper. A silent witness waiting for someone to listen again. Alex stood in the main archive chamber of Helix 9, now fully unlocked. Thousands of new markings had been discovered, and every day they uncovered more. Lenari had opened its internal vault, revealing not just words, but entire records, holographic memories of extinct civilizations, maps of lost star routes, encoded lessons in how societies had risen and collapsed. And throughout it all, Lenari repeated one message. History forgotten is danger reborn. Alex took those words seriously. They worked side by side with Dr. Lien, overseeing a multilingual team of linguists, engineers, historians, and cultural specialists. Every race had a piece of the puzzle, symbols and art, songs passed down generations, ruins thought to be meaningless. Now, those pieces were coming together, and the full picture was beginning to take shape. One night, Alex walked alone on the planet's surface. The protective suit kept the cold away, but not the stillness. The ruins of Arcturus no longer felt lifeless. Beneath every stone was intention. Beneath every symbol, memory. In the center of the ruins stood a circular platform, the original location where Lenari had first spoken. Alex approached it and placed their hand on the etched center. The symbol of the eye lit up beneath their glove. Lenari's voice returned, soft and near. You are not the first to listen. Alex nodded slowly. But we might be the first to understand. A quiet hum passed through the ground. Understanding is a beginning. Wisdom is a path. Your kind must choose which road to walk. Alex looked up at the stars. We've made too many mistakes, but we don't want to forget again. Then write your truth into memory, Lenari said, so others may walk farther than you. Back aboard the station, a decision was made. A new council would be formed, not of politicians or generals, but of historians, scientists, and cultural leaders from every species in the Galactic Union. Their goal was simple, to preserve what had been found, to share it freely, and to ensure the mistakes of the past would never be repeated. Alex declined every offer for fame. They had no interest in politics. Instead, they remained on Helix 9, continuing their work, teaching, translating, and learning. They wrote a book, published quietly across Union space. It was called When Myths Woke Us. It told the story of how a single language opened the door to memory, how truth had been buried by fear, and how understanding could reshape the stars. In the final chapter, they wrote, We thought we woke up a myth, but really, the myth woke us up. Years later, students from across the galaxy would read those words and travel to Arcturus to see the place where myths became memory. And every night, from the observation deck of Helix 9, Alex would look down at the glowing ruins, knowing that even in silence, the planet was speaking. The ruins no longer waited for judgment. They waited for progress, for choice, for peace.